Greetings. They say there's a first time for everything, and this is our first ever serious attempt at a hard night survival level. These ones I always sort of shied away from, sort of given the relative length and some of the uncertainty and so forth that comes out of it. But after no joke, 1,600 resets, we put together a run just now that I feel particularly proud of. So we'll be diving into that. I'll be giving a little bit of commentary over this pre-recorded run that I just got offline just a couple minutes ago. You'll see that we got a very interesting layout. And usually, my rule of thumb is if there's any worse than a three grave in a row sort of thing, you either get a four stack or a five stack, or something that ends up being worse than that, I'll reset. And this was sort of right on the cusp of what I was willing to accept. But I thought with a little bit of luck, I might be able to put it together. Particularly because, as you see, we got very lucky in the first couple of waves where the zombie appeared right in the twice in the row with no graves at all, which really helped speed along these first couple of waves by quite a little bit. The other thing we did that you may have missed right on your way in is we did manipulate this to be a one cone preview, meaning that we're expecting relatively fewer cones than if we'd gotten 2, 3, 4, or even more cones in the initial preview. So that's good. And again, you see we do get a cone head here relatively early in the run, but because it appeared in the row where we had no graves, you can see it's actually going to be not that much slower than getting the two regular zombie wave in just a little bit. So there you go. I don't know if survival hards is something I'll be grinding all of, particularly given sort of the difficulty and at times frustration I saw with these ones in particular, but that's how it goes. For those of you obsessed with a little bit of symmetry, you'll notice that we do arrange our sunflowers sort of in relative order by column, and there's actually a very good reason for that you'll see kind of coming up in just a couple of waves within the next couple of waves and things like that. The other very important thing with this is that you have one good spot to put the gloom, as well as ideally one spot to put a magnet as well, which I didn't quite get on the first try, losing just a little bit of time there. But again, luckily, given these regular zombies so far in the second half of this part, life is feeling really good. We actually had a super close call right here. I was probably frames away from losing that Gravebuster and losing the 75 Sun, but luckily we got it just in time. I knew it was going to be sort of right on the edge there, and it did ultimately come through. Again, you'll also notice sort of a relatively absurd looking number of sunflowers. Again, that's sort of all part of the plan, as well as getting some good use out of that middle magnet. Again, I really do like that spot, or the column 7 spot for the magnets, but managed to kind of take care of it just in the nick of time. Really, the second half of this level, I would actually say, is probably the most difficult part of the run overall, because as you can imagine, you have to balance firepower, trying to kill the zombies fast, with busting the graves, planting a magnet or two to prepare for future waves, protecting the glooms, and planting as many sunflowers as you can. Again, obviously all well, with the occasional squash, all well, trying to get as good a time as possible. Other thing, too, that you'll see that we do here is we do try to manipulate the spots of the final graves. I really don't want them eating the sunflowers, but you can see I even tried to sneak in a punch room there to prevent that from happening. It didn't, but that's ultimately okay. I'm actually one sunflower away from from the number that I usually like, but with good enough RNG, we can kind of get past that. You'll see in the preview there that we get newspapers and screen doors. The newspapers are basically all but required for a top time for the third and fourth flags here. With the screen doors, again, probably not being as good as footballers. We actually like the footballers because you can get instant 50% rules with them. But this is a really, really good layout and should sort of fall into that good enough category. Um, Other thing I guess I should mention, while we have sort of a little bit of semi downtime here, is I did get two world records. As you can see, a 1531.9 and a 1531.2, but I felt like I could do better. And we'll have to see sort of what this run turns out to be. But again, I was glad that I was persistent. Um, Interesting strategy here that sort of again falls into this interesting area of sort of where there is a discrepancy between what you would do in sort of a longer speed run setting like all survivals versus sort of kind of the all in strategy for going for a world record. And that's where you can see the Gatling gun, the Gatling P. The Gatling P ends up being very, very good, and this is sort of one of the few cases where you can really make a very, very good case for it. That really what we're constrained sort of in day and night hard is space. Again, you'll sort of very clearly see that it would be nice to have all the space in the world. More sunflowers, more magnets, and torchwoods, and repeaters, and all that stuff. But we're not. And so, really, for just if basically 50 extra sun, you can basically save that spot on your lawn. Now, again, it does come at the cost of a relatively long cooldown and things like that, but I think the Gatling P is worth it here. The other sort of broader strategy that you can do for really any of the night hard levels, but that I don't think necessarily has quite as high of a ceiling is the cob strategy, where basically we start digging up some of the sun shrooms early and replacing them with the cob cannon. I don't like the cob cannon on again day and night hard in particular because it is so you are constrained by space so much and it's again, you don't have that sixth row. You just don't quite have the length or the space as well. And again, with getting good enough RNG, you can get 50% rules just as quickly as you can with the cob cannon, if not even faster. You can see as we sort of annihilate this final wave without even the need for a doom. What I found with the doom, particularly in the newspaper waves, is that the doom ends up really not saving very much time at all on the final wave. You're basically left in a situation where by the time even the last newspaper gets on screen, it's only going to take a second or two anyway. And if you mistime the doom, you've now lost again this precious space that we have in the right hand side of the layout. Other very important thing that you'll see that I do very deliberately is manipulating, always making sure that you have an open spot so that when the grave appears heading into the final wave, that there is a spot for it. So again, very, very important to do that. You'll see. You might sort of wonder why I ended up taking the gloom shroom, and we'll get back to that in just a minute. Despite the fact that all the glooms are sort of on there, already up and running safely, but there is a good reason for that, particularly with the preview that we were that we were given. Other than that, you can actually see part of the reason why we put the sunflowers in column 2 like that is because it keeps them safe, and when we upgrade a couple of them to the twin flower, which I feel like is worth it if you can get them pretty early on in flags 3 and 4, but not really worth it necessarily much past that. Again, as you see, we make a spot here for the blower. Is if we were to get a Garg wave that's not necessarily run over, I actually did get a very, very good time, basically a tied world record with two Garg waves once upon a time. But you really have to get very lucky, and more often than not, it does lose time. But the idea is then that you can actually dig up the back row of sun producing plants and replace those with the repeaters. So it's very nice to have the twin flowers in row 2 because that actually is ultimately your safest row. Again, whether it gets hit by a digger or a Garg or something like that, you almost never need to dig up that second column at all. Another very important thing here, just if you do get the balloon zombie waves, just make sure that you save a blower right there on wave 9. That's going to be that's going to be very important. You can see I had one ready there, but didn't end up getting one on wave 9 anyway. So that's ultimately okay. Other than that, it's just keeping up with the repeaters, the magnets, replacing that, and you'll see we actually dig up a gloom here. What the reason for that is because, as you can see, the dancer zombies appear, and they actually spawn backup dancers off screen that would be very, very slow for us to get. So by digging up that gloom and then immediately cherrying right in the middle because the dancers can only appear in the middle 3 rows and not on night hard. We're sort of left in we're left in a very good defensive position there, and really didn't lose any time with the glooms at all. So again, kind of hence the reason for bringing the glooms. You could argue, all right, we could do jalapeno, we could do something else, but again, I feel very happy with the strategy. And you might recall that I did sort of a very similar thing in some of the some of the normal survival, PBs and world records that I put together. So definitely don't need twin flower at this point. It's a little too late in the run for that. I basically just clicked it because it was right there, and I didn't necessarily see any reason to take a jalapeno. That would sort of be the other option that we could do here is has a jalapeno, but again, ultimately, felt like that really wasn't necessarily worth it. Again, you can see, starting to take up the back rows here. Want to stay ahead a little bit of sun, just in case there's a problem on the 9th wave or things like that. You actually don't have to kill the backup dancers on waves 9 and 19, but it ends up kind of coming together pretty nicely. So. Yeah, you can see here, I do end up planting another magnet. I do ultimately want to save a spot for the grave to appear in the final wave, but didn't do that. And you can see we actually have very good balance or parity between the different rows here as well. Usually you often want to focus a little more firepower on the 1st and the 5th rows, just because they only have 2 glooms attacking it rather than 3. But at this point, again, that really makes a very, very minor difference, almost no difference at all. So you can see here, really the focus here, getting those extra P's. You might wonder why we don't put them in column 3. Number one is, again, if we do get Gargs in the next wave, I want to be prepared for that. But actually having your 3rd column of repeaters in the back row is actually good, because sometimes they fire, they don't hit the current wave, but they immediately start doing damage to the next wave if you get very fast 50% rule. So again, I do tend to like that particular strategy. You can see here, I had to be very quick there, make sure that I got that cherry bomb off in time. But again, it was kind of nice. Really no problems at all. I actually split a little bit late there, but it doesn't matter. I'm maybe about 3 seconds behind my PB, and probably about 5 seconds ahead of my goal time. So I really knew, as long as things didn't go horribly on this on this final wave, that we should be starting to look good. Again, very, very important, and really one of the big reset factors, and the reason that we got to 1,600 attempts. These were not all legitimate attempts, as you can see that I only completed about 21 of them, but I would say at least 80% of runs reset during the very first preview if I didn't get one cone head. Another 50% probably reset after seeing the grave layouts. If I got a terrible grave layout, then that's going to be a heck no. And another 50%, something went wrong in the first flag or two. And another 50%, I got a bad preview for the for the second flag. Again, generally things like vaulters, cone heads, things like that, where I just knew I was going to take a lot of damage and was not going to get very fast 50% rules. So the reason for so many attempts is really that most of them did not make it out of that first, basically the preview before the second flag. I would say that it was really only about probably 1 in 40, 1 in 50 attempts at least that even made it beyond that. You can see, unfortunately, we do have to dig up. I probably should have dug up one of the magnets to the front. Just given that the column 8 magnets are a little bit ahead. You'll see sometimes I'll skip a wave of blowers. That's because the blower is on a 7.5 second recharge, and the waves, if I get a fast 50% rule, can be as little as 6 seconds between each wave. So it really doesn't make a lot of sense. There, I had to use one because I saw that I had a lot of vultures and a lot of balloons. But like on that one, for example, not worth using it just for one balloon. Same thing with this one as well. Not worth using it for one balloon. But I actually like having I like having these late blower waves because it really does allow me to get a near instant 50% rule pretty quickly. And you can see there, I saved that, right at the beginning of that 19th wave, just blew everything away. Would have been nice not to have that vaulter, to have just a little more firepower out there, but I wasn't willing to do that. So I have to be sure here, I really need that middle spot not to get a grave. So I wait for the grave to spawn. I use the cherry to get rid of the dancers, and then you see a lot of delay here with the final doom, and that was intentional. There were a lot of times I used it a little bit too early. I probably could have done it about a half second early, but really just again sort of crushed. This world record right out of the park. And again, there were so many times where I used an early doom. And what you find is with sort of the fourth and fifth phases of this level is that because there are so many zombies, it really takes a long time for them to get on screen. So you really need to be particularly patient. But that's it. That's Night Hard done in 15 minutes and 20 seconds, which is a world record by a little over 10 seconds, about 11 seconds or so. So thank you for tuning in. Hope you appreciate it. We'll see what the rest of the grind goes like with some of the other hard survivals, but I feel very good about this one, and kind of challenging myself to go outside my comfort zone. And again, it feels really good to kind of make a mark on this individual level. So until next time, take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you all later. Bye.